Mercedes S-Class glided smoothly down 6th Avenue under a light October drizzle that beaded like liquid diamonds on the obsidian paint. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. Inside, the air was so tense one could almost hear the second hand tick inside the antique. Patek Philippe on Malene Pierce's slender wrist. Each mechanical advance a countdown to ruin. The CEO of Aurelia Dynamics, a woman who commanded boardrooms with a glance, was now reduced to a frantic, hunched figure struggling with her phone, its glow illuminating the stark panic in her eyes. Her voice trembled, a fragile vibration against the insulated silence. "Richard, what did you just say?" "That's impossible." "Check again. All 3 interpreting agencies are fully booked." Her hands shook uncontrollably, the phone slipping against her palm. Mascara smeared in dark, feathery strokes beneath her eyes, betraying tears of frustration she would never openly acknowledge. The golden hair, once neatly tied up in a flawless chignon, was now in disarray, strands escaping like thoughts she could no longer control. "This is a $1.2 billion deal, Richard. The Nakamura Singh delegation will land at JFK in 90 minutes. Do you understand what that means?" In the front seat, Evan Carlisle, the 52-year-old driver, tried to focus on the rain-slick road, the rhythmic swish of the wipers, a metronome for the impending disaster. But he could hear every word, each one a sharp pebble against the window of his composure. He knew this situation intimately, had seen its shadow looming for weeks. Aurelia Dynamics, the legacy of Malene's father, was on the brink of collapse. And this deal with the formidable Nakamura Singh conglomerate was the only lifeline. Soft jazz hummed from the radio, a pointless saxophone melody that felt like a cruel parody of calm. Evan reached forward, a slow, deliberate movement to turn it off, hoping the silence might help her concentrate, might quell the rising storm. But before his fingers could touch the polished walnut button, Malene's head snapped around sharp as a blade, her eyes locking onto his reflection in the rearview mirror. "Keep your gorilla hands off my car." The air froze, crystallizing in the space between the seats. Evan's hand stopped midair, a statue of servitude. In the rearview mirror, his usually gentle blue eyes reflected something different, a sea change deep beneath the surface. Not anger. He had long ago transmuted anger into fuel, but a deep, bone-weary exhaustion, the kind that comes from carrying an invisible weight for years. 3 years. 3 years of words like that. Of being treated as less than the leather he maintained. Of being erased to a function. Malene wasn't done. Her voice was razor-sharp, designed to slice to the quick. "You think being my driver gives you the right to touch my things? To make decisions in my space? You're just help. Know your place." Evan tightened his grip on the steering wheel, the fine-grained leather creaking in protest. His knuckles turned white, a stark map of tendons and restraint. His eyes fixed straight ahead where Manhattan's granite and glass blurred into a grey watercolor through the weeping windshield. But in his mind, the memories were crystal clear. Playing in perfect, painful fidelity as if it had all happened yesterday. Tokyo G7 Summit 2015, the hushed, opulent room thick with geopolitical tension. He'd stood behind 3 presidents, his voice a low, steady conduit in 3 different languages, his precise phrasing and nuanced cultural context deftly, untangling a misunderstanding that would have sparked a trade war. The grateful, respectful nod from the most powerful man in the world. Georgetown University, the sun-dappled stage, accepting an honorary doctorate in diplomatic linguistics. The hallowed halls of Harvard, where he'd earned his master's in applied linguistics, not for prestige, but for the sheer love of the architecture of human connection. 22 years serving the U.S. state. Department in shadows brighter than any spotlight. Fluent in 9 languages. A whisper in the ears of history. And now, the help. Malene exhaled sharply, a sound of utter dismissal, her voice icy enough to fracture the glass between them. "Raise the divider." "I'm done looking at you." The glass partition slid up with a faint final hiss. sealing her world of crumbling empire from his world of silent history. In the back seat, Malene returned to her desperate phone calls, her voice a frantic monotone. Up front, Evan sat motionless in the newfound silence, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. Not a single tear fell, because Evan Carlyle knew something Malene Pierce did not, could not fathom in her myopic storm of arrogance and fear. The man she had just called a gorilla, whose hands she had deemed too crude for her radio, was about to save her entire empire. The Mercedes rolled on through the relentless rain, a steel capsule splitting two separate worlds, one of perceived power and palpable desperation, the other of quiet power and poised resolution. Behind the partition, Malene Pierce in a $5,000 Armani suit was unraveling, the fabric now a prison for her trembling form. She made her seventh call, her voice raw. "Susan, I don't care if it costs 50,000, 100,000. Find me anyone who speaks Japanese and Mandarin right now." Her voice cracked, the CEO veneer shattering completely. "No, we can't postpone. They'll withdraw for good. This is it. 3 years of negotiation. Gone." She dropped the phone into her lap, staring out at the rain as the car navigated towards the private terminal. The silence in her cabin was the sound of the abyss. Up front, Evan Carlyle took a slow, centering breath. He adjusted his simple navy tie in the mirror, not for her, but for himself. He reached into the breast pocket of his driver's jacket, his fingers brushing past his wallet to find the small, worn notebook, its pages filled with gentle, phonetic reminders of languages he would never forget. The car glided to a stop under the portico of the luxurious terminal. Malene burst out before Evan could open her door, her heels clicking a staccato of panic on the wet concrete. He emerged more slowly, opening an umbrella and coming around to hand it to her, a protocol she ignored, striding towards the entrance. He followed, carrying her briefcase, a silent shadow. Inside, the Nakamura Singh delegation had arrived, early. 5 severe-faced executives and 2 formidable founders, Mr. Nakamura and Mr. Singh. The greetings were stiff. Malene's smile a strained rictus. They moved to a conference lounge where tea was served. The lead executive began speaking in rapid technical Japanese, outlining a critical last-minute contractual caveat. Malene's hired translator, a last-minute desperation substitute, faltered, his English rendering clumsy and imprecise. Malene blinked. Lost, Mr. Singh, observing, shifted to Mandarin, adding a complex layer about Singaporean regulatory law. The translator stammered, utterly out of his depth. A terrible, thickening silence descended. Mr. Nakamura and Mr. Singh exchanged a look of profound disappointment, a prelude to withdrawal. Malene's face drained of all color. She was watching $1.2 billion and her father's life work evaporate. And then a calm, clear voice cut through the tension, its tone respectful, its pronunciation flawless. It first addressed the point in Japanese, with the subtle honorifics of a Kyoto native, perfectly capturing the technical nuance. Then it pivoted to Mandarin, not just translating, but eloquently reframing the regulatory concern with a proverb that brought a faint nod from Mr. Singh. Every head turned. Evan Carlyle had stepped forward, placing the briefcase on the table. He stood not as a driver, but as an interpreter, back straight, eyes calm, his gorilla hands now gently gesturing with diplomatic grace. He facilitated the conversation for the next 20 minutes, a maestro of language and nuance, bridging gaps, clarifying intentions, his voice the only sound in the room besides the soft patter of rain on the windows. The deal was salvaged, then secured. Handshakes were exchanged, genuine smiles replaced grim looks. When the delegation left for their next meeting, Malene stood alone in the lounge, shell-shocked. Evan was quietly gathering empty teacups, the driver again. She walked over, her movement slow, the arrogance gone, replaced by a dazed humility. "Evan," she began, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't know. Who are you?" He placed the last cup on the tray and finally met her gaze fully. The deep exhaustion now mingled with a quiet peace. "It doesn't matter who I was, Ms. Pierce," he said, his voice gentle. "What matters is that Aurelia Dynamics lives to see tomorrow." He picked up the tray. "The car is ready when you are." He walked away, leaving her standing in the silence of her saved empire. Now understanding that the most powerful forces are often the quietest, and that true help is never just help. The Mercedes waited in the receding drizzle, no longer a capsule of two worlds, but simply a car, its divider now and forever down. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Kindness True Stories, for more tales of unexpected grace and hidden strength.